A few weeks ago, my daughter in New Zealand said, "Mum, you've got to put this on your YouTube channel because it's really yum and the whole thing can be done in an hour." So I made it and she was absolutely right. It's really delicious and it's quick to make. And the combination is fantastic. It's steamed rice, add some karaage chicken, which is Japanese fried chicken, a bit of fresh coleslaw, and topped off with a quick Tonkatsu sauce and Kewpie mayo. And the last little garnish is a bit of pickled ginger, but she actually doesn't like ginger, so she uses pickled onions. Really yum, really easy, and this is how it goes. So the first thing to do is marinate the chicken. So you'll need 2 cloves of garlic. I'm using 1 kilo of chicken thighs today, but I'll also include the measurements for half that amount. The 2 cloves of garlic, or 1 huge one like this, and microplane it into a bowl. Then if you have fresh ginger, use that, or you can just use this jarred ginger. I couldn't buy any fresh ginger, it was out at the shop. So just 2 tablespoons of either fresh ginger or ginger from the jar. 2.5 tablespoons of soy sauce. 2 tablespoons of cooking sake, which is just available now at your local supermarket. And lastly, just 2 teaspoons of sugar. And that's a marinade. Really simple, but very tasty. Now I'm using chicken thigh fillets. They're the best for this. All you want to do here is make like a cross hatch, which is just not on that side, but on the underside of the chicken fillets. Just diagonally cut one side and then diagonally cut the other side, like so. And do that to each fillet. So just diagonal one direction and then crisscross it and diagonal another direction, but not through to that part. And this just helps the marinade get through to the chicken. Now you can prepare this like a day in advance if you like, but it really only needs to marinate for half an hour and you still get those lovely flavours from the marinade. So once you've cross-hatched all that chicken, then simply cut it into sort of like bite-sized pieces. And as you cut them, pop them in the marinade and coat it all thoroughly in the marinade. Cover it and pop it in the fridge while you prepare everything else. And the next thing I make is the Tonkatsu sauce, which is the Japanese barbecue sauce, and it's really simple. So simply into a bowl put 1/2 cup of tomato sauce or tomato ketchup, just 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of cooking sake, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 smallish teaspoon of Dijon mustard, or actually you can use any mustard. Mix that well, and that is your Tonkatsu sauce. You can also buy this sauce ready-made on the shelf, but as you can see, if you've got the ingredients, it only takes a few seconds, well, a few minutes. And what I like to do is just pour it into a sauce bottle. Give it a shake, and that goes in the fridge as well. And the last thing that has to be really made is just the coleslaw, and that's really easy, and my daughter is really specific about the coleslaw she likes, and it's really easy. She just uses cabbage, carrots, and either a little bit of thinly sliced red onion or just a couple of spring onions. And her dressing is even simpler. She loves Kewpie mayo and either white pepper or black pepper, but quite a bit of it. And you can make as much or as little coleslaw as you wish. I'm just going to make enough to fit in that bowl. So, about that much cabbage. And you like it finely shredded, as finely as you can get it. One cabbage makes so much coleslaw. It's a shame to buy them in those plastic packs. It's so much more economical just making your own, and it doesn't take long. So there's the cabbage. And that was like 3 small carrots. I won't use these bits, I'll save them for something else, maybe garnish. And the last thing, just 1 or 2 finely sliced spring onions. And mix that around. I need to get a bigger glass bowl. And then some Japanese Kewpie mayo. And black or white pepper. I like white pepper, it's quite spicy. And quite a bit, as you can see. So you don't want it like absolutely dripping with mayonnaise, just enough to wet all the ingredients in there. Maybe a little bit more pepper. And that goes in the fridge as well. So I'm going to make some quick pickled onions because Mike doesn't like pickled ginger. And I'm just making a small batch today. So I've just got 1 big finely sliced red onion here. And you can also pickle other vegetables exactly the same way, but just make sure that everything's really thinly sliced. But with the onions, what I like to do, just to take that bite away from them, is pour over a kettle full of boiling water. And I'll leave that there while I quickly make the marinade, which is super simple. In a small saucepan, simply put 1/2 cup of vinegar, and you can use just ordinary white vinegar. I just happen to be out of it, so I'm using rice vinegar. And 1/2 cup of water, another 125 mils. 3 tablespoons of sugar. Now don't worry too much about the sugar. You don't drink the marinade. It's just to give it that nice sweet and sour taste. And just a tiny pinch of salt. And over a medium heat, just stir it so the sugar dissolves and bring it to the boil. And once it's come to the boil, just remove it from the heat. Place the onions in a glass jar or a glass bowl or container like I've got, and then just simply pour over the hot marinade. And that will turn a beautiful pink colour. And that is how easy pickled onions can be. So the coleslaw is done, the pickled onions are done, the chicken's marinating, and the tonkatsu sauce is made. And now I'm just going to put some water on for the rice. And you can use a rice cooker, whatever you're used to. But all I do is bring a big pot of water to boil, add some salt, add some rice, and cook it for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I always cook a lot of rice at once. But like that rice is beautifully cooked using that easy method. And while the rice is cooking, I just flour the chicken. Now the recipe says 1/2 wheat flour and 1/2 potato starch, and any amount really. I just put like a cup of each in, but I'm using gluten-free plain flour, and you can just use ordinary flour, they both work. And if you don't have potato starch, I've also used rice flour in the past and it works fine. But you'll need 1 cup of each, or thereabouts, depending on how much Karaage chicken you're making. And just mix those 2 flours together. And hands are the best thing for this. You can wash them thoroughly afterwards, but just get some chicken and coat it in the flour mixture and then onto a plate. Now what we do is we leave that just for a couple of minutes and the marinade will start to seep through, and then we flour it again. So it's been a couple of minutes and the marinade is starting to come through, so I just give it another light flour. But this time I'm really going to dust off any excess flour. So it doesn't dirty the oil so much. Right, I'll clean up this mess and then I'll start frying it. The recipe says you need 1.5 inches of vegetable oil, and I don't like wasting oil, so I just use this small saucepan and just cook it in batches. And it's only Mike and I, but feel free to use a larger one. And the best oil is one that has a good high smoking point. But today I've just used a combination of vegetable oil and mild olive oil because that's all I had. But it actually works. When I've worked with deep fryers, we always cook things about 170. But I don't have a thermometer. I'll just wait till the oil is sizzling when I test a piece of chicken. Doesn't take long to warm up. And that's what you want, lots of little bubbles around the chicken. I'm just using one of these spoons to move it around a little bit. But a wok works good as well. And just regulate your temperature. I've turned mine down a fraction now. And we're looking for nice and golden brown. So I've got my temperature on about medium now. And they don't take long. So once they reach a nice golden brown, just remove them to a plate with some paper towel on it. And they will continue to cook a little bit because they're so hot. And then just put in your next batch. And this is enough to plate one up. But what I do like to do, because I've got a bit of a salty palate, is just sprinkle a little tiny bit of salt over them whilst they're hot. Perfectly cooked. These are big bowls. Some rice, some slaw, the Karaage chicken, either little blobs of the Tonkatsu sauce or over the chicken, and the same with the mayo. Some pickled onions, and I like pickled ginger. And there you go. That looks so pretty and it tastes so good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this and I hope to see you again soon. The chicken karaage recipe I've used for years, and I initially found it on a website called Taste of Asian Food. I'll link that website in the description of this video.